caused the recent spate of road accidents across the country? And does the Road Traffic Management Corporation fulfill its mandate? Do current road safety campaigns serve their intended purpose? What can road users do to help law enforcers in fighting against road carnage? What time is it? It is question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Seidu. Authorities have promised to impose harsher penalties on non-law-abiding motorists after last week's horrific road accidents. A total of 141 people lost their lives in 110 motor vehicle collisions in all 9 provinces combined. Meanwhile, a passenger was reported dead and 13 others were injured yesterday afternoon. This after a minibus taxi burst into flames on the N3 near the R554 in Roodekop, Gauteng. A reminder that this is a live program, and therefore you can call us and air your views or express your opinions. The number to dial, 089-110-4210. If you're outside the borders, 002-789-110-4210. Our Twitter handle remains at question time 24. My guest, Makosini Msibi, is the Chief Executive Officer of the RTMC, the Road Traffic Management Corporation. Well, welcome to question time. I don't know whether it would be a fair question to ask why are people still dying on the roads?
Well, good evening, and the listeners. It's quite an appropriate question. But the question is, what are our road users doing in order to ensure that the state or an acceptable state of road accidents doesn't occur? This is particularly an attitude problem where people don't want to change their attitudes, people don't want to abide by the law, people continue to do what is unnecessary and unwarranted. Amongst others, speeding, talking on the cell phones, tweeting, and indeed driving on unroadworthy vehicles, and amongst others, people driving under the influence of liquor.
But what would you attribute the latest ones to? Is it just unroadworthy vehicles?
Well, let's start with the one that claimed most lives in the Eastern Cape, which indeed was a bus. It's very clear from the interactions and the investigations that we have done, and indeed, you'll know that even the weekend newspapers had ran the story where the 8-year young boy told the story, which is very painful, and indeed it's attributed to speeding. None other, any other thing else that had caused that accident. You'll hear that young boy saying, at some point, all passengers in the bus were praying, the aunt had to grab her and pray while the bus was speeding. So indeed, it is human element.
Yeah, but now, why should people pray when the driver is being reckless? Why not just stop the bus and get the police to come and intervene?
Naturally, it tells you that they were very helpless. It's in the rural areas. Here's this bus driving, and they could see and foresee that this bus is heading for an accident. What do you do as a woman who's helpless? Do you reach for your cell phone? The only thing that you call for is divine intervention.
And why would your officers allow such a bus on the road?
Well, there's nothing wrong with the bus in terms of the preliminary investigations.
Oh, okay.
There's all wrong with the human element who was the driver, who was speeding at that time. A 24-year-old boy who was driving the bus maybe felt very excited to be behind the steering wheel, down the slope, not reducing the speed, and really get to people to die in that manner.
Okay, I hear the human element on the part of the users. When do we then talk about the traffic management element on the part of RTMC and other agencies?
Well, as the law enforcement agencies, together with our partners, we have done almost everything, ranging from education, awareness, and law enforcement. But let me take the aspect of the law enforcement. We have intensified the law enforcement. We have introduced the 24/7, that is, law enforcers throughout the day and the night. That has started with the National Road Traffic Police, which is the NTPs. We are rolling this process to provinces. We have engaged with the labor formations to find commonality and cohesion in the point that there is a need that you need to have law enforcers 24/7. Okay. This is informed by the statistics that we have, because most of the accidents happen between 20 hours at night and 6 hours in the morning.
Yes.
Particularly Friday, Saturday, and Sunday being the most affected days. Mm-hmm. So it therefore calls for us that we should then have the law enforcers 24/7. But you might have the law enforcers 24/7, but indeed it is still on the road users, their attitude, and indeed responding to the clearing call that we have made that let's abide by the law.
But where you are visible, surely you should have noticed that there's a reduction in terms of road accidents, or even people who are breaking the laws, drivers that is. But instead of being visible, your officers hide behind bushes waiting to arrest people.
Well, there are various strategies that we're implementing. Some of the people that you're referring to, those that will not be visible, those are the people that are dealing with the speed calming devices. Yes, naturally, you are intended to do so, but when we deal with visible policing, yes, it's when you'll see our vehicles along the roads, mm-hmm, stationed along the roads, as also patrolling along the roads. But it's a multi-pronged strategy that you are dealing with, because these people that you see hiding behind the trees are also assisting us to get the data of the people that are speeding from the infringement perspective.
But they're also helping you to get the money.
Well, the money element, it is not the key issue. Mm. The key issue is road safety.
Okay.
The money element, it's of course a variable that comes as a cherry on top. But that is our core function, is to ensure that our road users are safe and the roads are safe.
Okay. I want to give you some time to think about this question. Why are you not at taxi ranks before the taxis leave to go and kill people? Only after the break will I get the answer. This is question time.
The road to greatness is not an easy one. It's rough, tough, and full of barriers. And there's only one way to master it. Never, ever stop. Dauntless, the all-new Audi Q7.
Welcome back. We're taking your calls on 089-110-4210, and if you're outside the borders, 002789-110-4210, or our Twitter handle at @QuestionTime24. We're talking the road carnages, and indeed, it has been a challenge. A lot of accidents have happened over the weekend. But now, I was saying to you, as RTMC, why don't you camp at taxi ranks and bus ranks? Because these vehicles, once they leave the taxi, their ranks, respective ranks, then accidents happen.
Well, I'm going to answer that question two-pronged. Mm. Despite, and of course, contrary to the popular view, that taxis and buses are causing more of our accidents, it's not so. It is the private vehicles that are contributing largely to our statistics. Yes, in terms of the taxis and the bus ranks, they do have a fair share of the road fatalities. However, you might have been aware of the partnership between Santago as well as the government in terms of the Hlokomela project.
That project is not successful, Mr. Msibi. I must be honest with you. If you and I were to leave this studio right now and go and follow a taxi route, you will realize that what I'm saying is true.
Now, that's the point. Where does the contravention of the law happens? It happens on the road. That's why you are on the road. Because a stationary vehicle doesn't pose any danger to the road users. It's only when it starts to be in motion. We test them, we do pre-tests, but it doesn't assist. What it assists is us to be on the road and arrest those people. But what is more critical? Who owns the vehicle? It's a human being. Who drives the vehicle? It's a human being. It's a human being that knows that I'm getting into the most unroadworthy vehicle because I have the crunch for money. It is the human being that knows that the tires are worn. It is the human being that knows that the tire ends of this vehicle are not functional. It is the human being that knows that I've not been servicing this car for the past 3 months or 4 months. Now, we therefore deal with them on the road. However, I must be quick to then say it is on those bases that the national minister is reviewing the legislation. We're reviewing the legislation to make some provisions for us to deal with this state of affairs. We have, of course, we will not also begin to say that we are perfect. We have identified some gaps in terms of our law enforcers. It is on those bases that we have taken back our law enforcers to the training college, to train them to become multi-skilled, because some of them were only trained to be traffic officers, but they were not trained in terms of motor vehicle testing.
Assessment, yes.
So we're now taking them through all those tests so that by the naked eye they can identify where the problem is.
Okay, I hope you're also going to teach them not to ask for cold drink money.
Well, Mpho, it takes two to tango. South Africans are also playing a critical role in the corruption that we are facing in this matter. It is not the traffic officer that initiates. It is the driver of the vehicle that make these gestures and, of course, make these requests to our traffic officers. However, the days are numbered. We are participating and indulging with the Department of Justice to amend the legislation. Particularly, in South Africa, we have not dealt with the other parties. We have only dealt with the law enforcers. But there is a corrupt and a corruptee. Okay. So we are now saying, let's have the two charged, brought before book, so that we can then edge this sketch of corruption.
Okay. I think we're supposed to be having Letlatlo from Taung. Are you still on the line? You're live. We can hear you if you were to. Letlalo, rather. Letlalo? Okay, we don't seem to have Letlalo anymore. But the number to dial is 089-110-4210, 089-110-4210. Let's take your calls. What are your experiences in as far as road usage is concerned? The RTMC CEO is here. Are they doing enough according to your assessment? Now, I don't know whether this one falls under your jurisdiction, but this Rea Vaya buses have lanes that are dedicated to them. And I want to bet you another, well, we don't get paid a lot of money here, but the little that I'm paid. If we were to go to the Rea Vaya lanes now, surely some taxi guy will be using that road. And I ask myself, what was the use then of creating these lanes specifically for buses if they are going to be used by taxis as well?
Well, the dedicated lines that are made for buses are dedicated lines. But we must also then take the responsibility as passengers. In the taxi that you're talking about, there are either 15 or 18 passengers who are just mum. They're quiet. They see that this man is doing something that is wrong. They're just happy to be home. It is about time that South Africans too must therefore bring a stop to this culture. It is a collective responsibility. It's not only us alone. Mr.
Msibi, I don't know if you have ever used taxis in your life.
I grew up in the township. I understand the taxi.
And you also know their public relations skills?
Well, it will be unfortunate that we paint everybody with the same paint or same brush. There are those that indeed their attitude leaves much to be desired, but there are those that are good, that renders the good service.
Okay.
Indeed, in terms of the training of the taxi drivers, we have an academy in partnership with Santago. Amongst the issues that we're dealing with is public relations matter, where they are trained how to deal with the customers and how to treat the customers.
Okay. Eunice, you are in Pretoria. Welcome.
Hello, Butimpo, guys.
Rona man.
Rona, nakita makadi taxi Butimpo.
Okay.
Atuba one motoba muchaba wangwa. Mola ubuleta for batuba. Kimusadi. Wana mushimano go sa tishi. Kagano utano dia tsonaje. Before 1994 basadiso. After 1994 omulo mungudia kamkhwanya ka ngori ke democracy. Re chaba taxi than robot. Kalebo.
Yeah, well, Eunice says, look, these fellows are ruthless, they are rude, they are hard, and as she's saying that we are more scared of the taxis than the red robot.
Well, we're creating a culture in South Africa where we believe that some other people are above the law, and there's nobody who's above the law.
But, Mr. Msibi, I don't think you're talking about taxis. You know, these are the same taxi guys who, when you impound their vehicles, they go on strike, they block M2, M1, and everything else, and government says, no, we will not stop you during peak hour.
Oh, well, Mpo, I think we approach that problem in various issues. Clearly, let the taxi drivers try that space where they are going to block the M1. It has happened.
Yes.
But how we respond to that mission, as government too, we have now stopped the rules. You will see us some other time towing their cars upside down, because that is lawlessness. You can't allow it in South Africa. It impacts on the economy. It also inconveniences some of the people. So we don't have an animal farm where some of the animals are more important than others. We all South Africans. There's law that is governing South Africa. We're a constitutional country. We'll never allow lawlessness. We know there is a perception that has grown amongst our communities that taxi people are untouchable. They even use certain words and names. And indeed, you will see in the amendment of the legislation where we're also considering the issue of the PDP, the public driver's permit, that it should not be an automatic situation that simply because you don't have a criminal record, you must be given the PDP.
Okay.
So these are the issues that we're bringing to the fore.
All right, let's go to Fixbeck. Welcome to Question Time.
Hello, Ndata, how are you?
Well, thanks for the call.
Yes, Fetazana speaking from Fixbeck here.
Okay, Ndade.
Yes, I just want to ask Minister, we South Africans, we are not allowed to buy the car that has been sold, which were from foreign countries, which are called being scrapped. But all the foreign countries are buying those cars, and they are using in a South African road because we are not allowed to buy it because they say they are not met the standard of the road for South African.
Okay.
As South Africans. But the foreigners are buying those cars and they are using in the road of South Africa. So why, Minister, allowing those cars, telling us that the car was not in a good standard of operating in South African road? Why the foreigners are using in a South African road?
Okay.
That is so, yeah.
Thanks very much. I think we know which vehicles he's talking about, yeah.
Well, in South Africa, we have standards, norms and standards in terms of the vehicles. But in particularly to the public transport vehicles, you will know that we had a program which was called recapitalization,
sure.
Taxi recapitalization process. There were issues that relates to homologation, which a taxi had to meet certain standards. So a taxi that doesn't meet those standards will not be allowed to be a taxi in South Africa, in particular to have a public permit or an operating license.
Okay.
So we're very clear in South Africa, simply because we prioritize safety. Those vehicles that have been capitalized or recapitalized as vehicles that meet the safety standards. So we can't compromise those.
But you still have those that do not necessarily meet the standards on the roads.
But recall that the process of the taxi recapitalization program was not a once-off situation. It's a process. So there is a deadline as to when, by what time, will such taxis not be allowed on our roads.
Okay. Tammy, you are in Welcome.
Good day, guys.
Yes.
Gokeli Musibi, putting it to you that are moving towards solving the problem, but at a tortoise space. That is number one. Number two, can you tell me how many traffic cops care? How many cars? Which go to look at these cars, and I'm not even talking about the lifestyle of those traffic cops. Lastly, tell us about the budget really, which we are showing, in the whole exercise we are talking about, because I'm putting it to you once more to say the training we are sending these people to, how the budget can be used really to address the situation. It's basic. You don't need to go to training to say this car is not valid. This 4+1, as they call it, which smells the whole car. Please talk to us, Ngokeli. Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much, Tammy.
I missed the two questions, but the second question I understood it in terms of the number of law enforcers that we have vis-a-vis the motor vehicle population.
Yes.
In South Africa, we have 10,651,000 registered motor vehicles. We do have 20,000 traffic officers through the country. Now the question is, do we need a traffic officer per each and every vehicle, or you need a traffic officer per a number of vehicles? Indeed, we are quick to respond and admit that we might not have the number or the desired number of law enforcers. But what is important, what strategy are you using amidst the sparsity of the resources that government doesn't have? We might not get to a stage where we can have 1,000 traffic officers to be equivalent to about 1 million motor vehicle. But what is important, we as South Africans, in dealing with our resources, we as South Africans, in dealing with our lives, we need to take responsibility. Can I be one of the ambassadors? And that's the question that most of our drivers and road users should be saying. I don't need a policeman to police me. I don't need a traffic officer to police me. It's my life. I must take care of my life.
When you're speaking here, I'm getting a sense that you want to give an impression that this RTMC is a new RTMC. We're doing things differently. Give us some time, or just take a look and see what we are about.
Okay. Well, the Road Traffic Management was established through the Road Traffic Management Act in 1999, but the Road Traffic Management Corporation opened its doors for the first time in 2005. As we speak, the Road Traffic Management is 10 years old. But within the process of the 10 years, there have been a number of phases, particularly the establishment phases. So we're not a new institution. But what is important, the new management and the new government has taken the resolution that we need to make this happen. Because in terms of the Road Traffic Management Act, particularly, you are just exercising the powers which, of course, ordinarily, in terms of the Constitution, particularly Schedule 4 and 5 of the Constitution, are the powers, concurrent powers, of the national minister and the MECs. And indeed, in terms of Section 156 of the Constitution, those powers belong to the municipalities. So we're executing these powers. So it is for the first time that we have consolidated these powers together with the shareholders and said this institution that we have created, this special purpose vehicle that we have created, should therefore begin to lead. And we're beginning to lead. And that's why you hear us more frequently. And we're beginning to say we're consolidating and integrating our efforts between the provincial, municipalities, and national, because it is through this integration and coordination and enhancement that will win the battle of law enforcement as well as road safety.
Okay, thank you very much for the time. And perhaps finally, I mean, what do I do when I meet an officer like Officer Gabaza from JMPD, who will be questioning my address? my residential address, you know, whether I stay in a particular area. Maybe I don't have rights to speak about certain issues.
Well, you're referring to what has happened last week?
Yes.
When a traffic officer was saying to some other person, where you staying when you're paying my salary? Well, two things came out of that situation. Indeed, that traffic officer, we need to applaud her for having dealt with the matter. She might have gone overboard, but however, she was therefore dealing with this road user. Firstly, from the visuals, it's very clear that the windscreen was defective. From the visuals, it's very clear that the car was, of course, not of good standard. So that traffic officer, we take our heads off for her, though she might have gone overboard. But you are saying, please cooperate with them. They are doing their job. Assist them in doing their job. But also, please don't buy driver's licenses. Okay. Assist us, because one of the scares that we're facing, South Africans are buying these driver's licenses. Okay. You need not buy a driver's license. It's your right to can go to any DLTC, apply for the driver's license, and do it in a lawful manner.
Bamsip.
Thanks ever so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guest and to you for watching the show. From me and the crew, have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.
For victory requires intense effort and teamwork.